everybody, it's Kelli Folsom here. I wanted to kind of give everybody a heads up on is that I am feeling called back to doing the Artist Way. I don't know if any of you have ever done the Artist Way book before and journey. I have ordered the book yet again. I've probably ordered this book like 3 or 4 times, but because I move so much, I end up, giving it away or donating it. What I plan to do is just, for those of you who want to do it with me, who want to go along on that journey with me, like I said, it's a 12-week journey in the book. Feel free to go along with me on that. I will be posting my weekly updates as to, how I'm doing with the program and the realizations and things that are going to be coming out of that. I am working on the Artist Way book. I just got this in yesterday morning. And so for those of you who want to kind of follow along with me and kind of do this with me and share our experience together, you are welcome to do so. You can probably find this book, new or used, at any bookstore in any country. It is a treasure. Good morning, my art friends. As promised, I just wanted to share some of my ahas or realizations along the way. And so I have been writing in here every single morning, my 3 pages, stream of consciousness writing. This is what Julia Cameron calls morning pages. And it is one of the non-negotiables of doing this process. As I told all of you, I felt very much called back to this book. I haven't done the Artist Way in about 3 years, maybe almost 4 years. And, she calls it creative recovery. And Elizabeth Gilbert, I'm sure many of you know her, the author of Eat, Pray, Love. This is also one of her favorite books as well. And she wrote, "The Artist Way brings much insight, gently helping you see what is holding you back and showing you how to move forward." And I could not agree more. And it's called A Course in Discovering and Recovering Your Creative Self. And I think it's so interesting how much she talks about the creative recovery, because I do think so many of us throughout our lives just kind of stuff that creative spirit down, because we're so busy and it's just, we have day-to-day life stuff to do. And maybe as we were also growing up, there really wasn't a place for creativity. It didn't seem very useful, very practical. Maybe it just felt like really frivolous or unnecessary. Like, oh, that's all fine and dandy. Oh, good for you. You like to draw, or you like to paint, or you like to write, or you like to make things. That's all good for you, honey. Good, But the vibe or the sense that you got maybe is that it really was not that important, and it was just kind of like I don't want to say a waste of time, but just like entertainment or something like that. But those of us who are artists know that it's not just entertainment, and it is very much a part of who we are, and it's life force. It's our life, it's our energy. It is we have to have it in order to survive. And really, honestly, so do other people. But I do think in our culture, in our society, it's maybe just not that sacred or treasured, perhaps. And so a lot of us grow up kind of minimizing this creative self or this creative gift for the sake of practical things. And so I love that she talks about, the recovering your creative self. And before I even went back and started this, I was sharing with all of you that I really see this this journey, this 12-week journey that she takes you on in here, as like going to the ER as an artist. You know, it's like the first couple of weeks is like, oh my God, I'm in the ER and I need emergency care, you know. And so the first chapter is really, for me, it always feels like I'm in the emergency room. So it's called Recovering a Sense of Safety. You know, and the first chapter is really, to me, just, and also the first week of morning pages is really just kind of like a immediate cleansing and sort of a purging in a way. Yeah, just kind of like an immediate immersion and release and purging, you know, through that first week. So chapter 2 is on recovering a sense of identity. And wow, was such a powerful chapter, especially on the topic of poisonous playmates and crazy makers. So have you guys read that yet? That section is really, really powerful. Poisonous playmates. It's talking about basically people who are really not interested in you succeeding. I sort of had some crazy makers try to pop up in my life this week. And, you know, I had made a vow to myself, like, I'm not going to spend any time on drama. I'm not going to spend any time on even trying to understand what somebody else's motivation is, why they said that, why they acted that way, why they made that comment, you know, because I kind of tend to do that because I really don't, you know, I don't want anybody being unhappy with me, or I don't want to feel like I did something to hurt somebody or make them uncomfortable in some way. But I made a promise to myself because these crazy makers, you just can't please them. You know, it's like no matter what you do, they're always just going to like try to stir up drama. It is interesting, once you start making like promises to yourself, the universe will definitely test you on that promise. So I definitely got tested this week with the crazy maker, and I just had to like, you know, hold myself to my promise, to myself, to my creative self, to myself, that, you know, I'm not going to give into this. I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole with this person or try to understand what's going on with them or why they acted that way or why they said that. You know, they are where they are. And so I'm just going to say, hey, I totally understand. And we can, you know, just move forward from that. Here are my big takeaways from week 3 and what a powerful week it was, called Recovering a Sense of Power. She starts off the chapter talking about anger, not my favorite topic, but it was interesting because in my journal, I always journal first. I do the morning pages first, and then I read about 10 minutes of the chapter. And so what was interesting is I was really, really angry in my pages, which I thought, this is kind of unusual. There's like all this anger coming up in my pages, which I think is pretty common if you are kind of in a rut or in a slump or you feel blocked. I think it's pretty common to feel anger about that. And I'm not really one to express that anger a lot, so the morning pages is a really private, safe place for me to be able to do that. But I love what she said about anger, because she said anger is fuel. We feel it and we want to do something. Hit someone, break something, throw a fit, smash a fist into the wall, tell those bastards. But we are nice people, and what we do with our anger is stuff it, deny it, bury it, block it, hide it, lie about it, medicate it, muffle it, ignore it. We do everything but listen to it. So her main point was like anger is a map. The anger that you're feeling is not something to be stuffed away, because that's just going to make any rut or any block that you're experiencing even worse. because you're just not dealing with the emotions underneath the surface. So she says, anger is a voice, a shout, a plea, a demand. Anger is meant to be respected because anger is a map. Anger shows us what our boundaries are. Anger shows us where we want to go, and it lets us see where we've been and lets us know when we haven't liked it. Anger points the way, not just the finger. In the recovery of a blocked artist, anger is a sign of health. Then she goes through and talks about synchronicity and how whenever you're doing this process, you're going to start seeing some synchronicity or serendipity, however you want to word that, show up in your world, in your life. And I definitely saw a lot of synchronicity this week in my morning pages and the daily events of my life, and it was really pretty cool. Then she goes into talking about shame. All of us probably have felt some, probably more of us than not have felt some shame and secrecy around our art making. I definitely remember feeling a lot of secrecy whenever I first wanted to do art again. I was married at the time, and I did not even want my husband at the time to know anything about the art that I was doing. I was really, really scared. And also she has some exercises in here to kind of basically reveal those initial experiences with art making that brought that shame on for you. And for me, there was an experience whenever I was a kid that I had a big sketchbook filled with drawings, but they were drawings of nude female women. My grandmother, who liked to do art, had given me these Walter Foster books. There was a ballerina, but a lot of them were nude figurative work. And she had impressed upon me that, hey, if you really want to get good at drawing, you need to be able to draw the figure. Great, and every art school will tell you that as well. But I had this sketchbook anyways. It was filled with all kinds of drawings, portraits, these nude female figures as well. I felt like zero shame around it at all. I was about 11, 12 years old. I really did not feel weird at all about drawing these drawings. It was nothing that was like sexual for me or bad in any way, shape, or form. But what ended up happening was we had an art teacher at our school, and I was too young to be in his class. But I would take my sketchbook to him to get critiques, to get feedback and encouragement and support. And he was really, really lovely, such a lovely man in that way. And he loved my enthusiasm for art and was always very, very supportive. Well, I went to go get my sketchbook back from him one day, and he couldn't find it. It wasn't there. The sketchbook was totally missing. Well, that was devastating to me because it was about, 2-3 years worth of drawings. It was like my entire life's work at that point. It was such a private thing for me. So I just felt really, really betrayed that this sketchbook was lost, was missing, and just so discouraged, so disappointed, like, golly, everything I've done is just gone, just disappeared. What we found out later was that some boys at the school, I went to a little private Christian school in Amarillo, Texas, and some boys at the school had found my sketchbook in this classroom. And they were about my age, puberty age, 12, 13, 14. So they had found the sketchbook, and they themselves, I guess, felt so much shame around the images in the sketchbook, and basically they threw it away. So that's what happened to my sketchbook. And how I found this out was there was a young girl at our school who she had in her cubicle a drawing of one of the portraits that I had done. It was a portrait drawing of a young girl. And I saw that she had this, and I said, oh my gosh, where did you get that drawing? That's my drawing, how did you find that? Where did you find that? And so she told me, oh, my daddy found it in the dumpster. So I went to her dad, who was our computer teacher, Spike, and I asked him, Spike, where did you get that drawing? Did you save more of them? And so they had saved a few drawings. Of course, they were all the portraits, But anyways, the story came out that the boys who had found the sketchbook, basically it said like these were really bad drawings, sexual drawings, and they weren't. They were just nude, female figures. And so that's why they threw my sketchbook away. Anyways, so this whole section where she's talking about shame and then basically kind of unearthing, what were those initial things? Was it that triggered that shame for you around your art, or a reason and a need to like keep it secret and keep it private? And so that whole section, you guys, is just incredible. And I haven't thought about that for almost 30 years. I haven't thought about that event in a really, really long time. And so I did my morning pages this morning, and now I'm doing my reading in the book in chapter 4. This chapter is called Recovering a Sense of Integrity. And I wanted to share with you my thoughts before I forget them, before I go through my day, because this is such a powerful section. So I'm not sure, are any of you like finding yourselves rearranging your studios, throwing stuff out, maybe throwing clothes out, or getting, piles of things to donate? So she's talking about this, and she actually says one of the clearest signals that something healthy is afoot is the impulse to weed out, sort through, and discard, whether it's old clothes, papers, belongings. And I have been doing that big time this week. Just like, oh, why am I holding on to that? Or that bookshelf's in the wrong spot. I'm going to move that over here today. And and it's been really, really lovely to do that, because it's like, oh yeah, that feels better. That feels right. Okay, on page 84, she gives a big warning of denial. Be aware of these thoughts of like, oh, nothing really that dramatic is happening to me. Nothing that, nothing serendipitous or synchronized is really showing up for me, like she's talking about. Even though you might actually be having all kinds of, internal adjustments and changes, but you may not be noticing them as you're going through this process. And so I love that she gives a warning of that. It's, it's just a temptation to stop doing the work, right? And oftentimes, even in artistic development, I find that with people that they just stop short, and I've definitely been there, experienced that as well. It's like, oh, I'm not growing fast enough. I see so-and-so over here is just like skyrocketing, in their growth, in their paintings. And I feel like I'm at a plateau. And, it's funny because they'll stop short. They'll stop doing the work. So I love that she's warning against that, because not only does that happen through this process, a process of really trying to heal our creative selves and get more in touch with our creative selves, it also shows up in our art making as well. This is week 4, recovering a sense of integrity. I got through the rest of week 4 chapter. My absolute favorite section, and the one that made the most difference for me this week, she calls it reading deprivation, because she's a writer. And so a lot of times in here, the way that she writes is kind of like she's talking to other writers. So some things I kind of have to change a little bit to be more for art, visual art. And so reading deprivation, I wrote art, other people's art deprivation. So she's saying like, stop reading other people's work. If you're a writer, stop reading, give yourself space to do your own thinking, your own writing. And I think in our case as artists, like, stop always looking at what everybody else is doing, and maybe even stop filling yourself up with like too much art instruction. You know, now, especially since COVID hit, so many people are teaching online now. And obviously I love teaching online. I've been teaching online for 3 years and it is absolutely fabulous. But what I have found is that we can often like overfill that cup of instruction and like not have a balance between taking in too much of other people's work and what they're doing and not creating our own. That's the main thing that you want to watch out for. All right, everybody, I'm wishing you a very happy weekend and happy painting. Much love. Bye.